This video is supported by Rocket Railways for all your model railway needs. Please check the link in the description below. Hello and welcome back to Galgormhall for what really is a long overdue update. I think it's about 5 months since I last posted a video, and since then what's been happening here? Well, this video is basically just to give a rundown as to what has been happening, or in many cases what's not been happening, regrettably, on the layout. Before I do get into the ins and outs of everything, I do have to give a quick shout out, and this is at the behest of my older son Stuart. A little story, just Stuart went into school last week, started P4, and at the door one morning his head teacher approached him and says, Stuart, is your dad into model trains? And Stuart said yes, he was. And the head then says, oh, he has a YouTube channel, doesn't he? And Stuart said yes, he does. And then it proceeded that head teacher actually watches this channel. So Stuart insisted that I give a shout out and said hello to Mr. MacGowan. So hello. Anyway, let's get back to more pressing matters of the model railway. In the last video I left it with you that I was going off to do a commission build, and I just wanted to sort of get the head down and get that completed, which I did. Took maybe a little bit longer than expected, but these things happen with me, you know, nothing ever has a time frame that really works. With that commission just sort of nearing completion, I then got contacted by somebody else with a request to build something for him too. So that has delayed me a little bit more. Now, with regards to those two commissions, the first one I still can't show anything to do with it, but you know, maybe in a few weeks you will actually get a glimpse of something on that. But on the second one, I want to take just a few minutes to show you what was being done with that second commission. In addition to that, I have done a little bit of work on the layout, so we'll have a look at what's been going on there. No video recorded on that. It really has been a case of snatching time just here and there to be able to do these things. So I've just ploughed on and got it done. And then there's also a few new additions to the layout, two of which you may see over my right shoulder here. One's quite visible, the other one is a little bit hidden, but those in the know will recognise that locomotive that's sitting just behind the joist. So we'll come to that too. One other thing I wanted to say was that over the past few months I have had a few of you have contacted me just making sure that everything was okay, because they hadn't heard from me for a while. And you know, everything has been fine. It's just a case of the commissions took up a little bit of time, and then the summer months came. Work got incredibly busy. The heat that we had over here this year was phenomenal, basically, which made sort of the loft out of bounds for a period of a few weeks. And then actually, you know, just sort of getting out of the sync of it, the kids off on holidays in the summertime, I just sort of fell out of the way of, you know, that routine of coming up to the roof space and doing something. Hopefully now we're getting back into the autumn months shortly, and the kids are back at school now, that I can find a little bit of motivation to push ahead with a few things. Two of those things may well be for further commissions. Certainly one I've been given the go-ahead on, and the other one we're just sort of talking about at the minute. But I think in the instance of these two, I would like to do a build series on them. So I will keep you up to date on the process of them, because I think both will have relevance to many of you modelers that could be useful in your own layouts. But the reason I wanted to mention the people contacting me was just more or less to say thanks, and thank you for thinking about me and having a little bit of worry there. It really is appreciated that there are those out there that value what I offer on this channel. So Anyway, let's take a look at everything that's been going on in the last few months. Now, this isn't the new branch line station suddenly appearing from nowhere. This is the second of the commissions that were taken on. The modeller wanted a station from the Taunton Hythe and Folly Light Railway, and this is Marchwood on that line. Apparently it is a now disused line other than for MOD access. It had passenger services right up until the mid-1960s and then closed and was open only to the freight and MOD, but freight has now since disappeared from that line as well. So he wanted the building made in the sort of closed, distressed look that it appears in photographs today. Now, this build has very much gone the way of any of my other scratch builds. It's built using card as the skeleton layer. The rendered surface of the building is sandpaper. It was an area that I was really struggling to find a suitable sort of tonal texture to complete it, and having a route around the scraps box and the craft box, I came across a sheet of sandpaper which almost matched it perfectly. In actual fact, you know, I've had to do nothing with that other than add the little touches of weathering at the end. The roof tiles are from the Pico range, and these are the pan tiles, which is a nice sort of variation on the standard roof slate that you get. On the little extended building, it's just the standard Slater's ridge roof tiles and brick plastic card on that too. Justin over at Scale Model Scenery produced the fantastic looking windows and doors for it. Again, it was one of those things that sort of set this building apart, give it a little bit of definition, and certainly whenever you get those windows in there, it really does set it off. And then additional detailing were just from the likes of the Wills Pico ranges in chimney pots, downspouts and guttering. Now, as I say, I didn't do a video on the build of this, but I did sort of a progress of the thing as I went on, and those photographs were posted on Facebook. So if you are interested in seeing a little bit of a blow-by-blow account of the build, albeit in picture format, go over to the Galgormhall Model Railway Facebook page and you'll be able to find it there. Now, as I progressed through the two commissions, I had periods of time where I was waiting for things to either dry or to glue up, or to even to wait for materials to come through, which gave me some time to work on the scenic aspects of the layout. And really that's all that has been done on the layout in the last few months. And the concentration was on the cutting of the branch line. And as you can see here, it's more or less finished. I've basically followed the same process that I have throughout the rest of the layout, in that I have used the green scene static grass as a base layer for the foliage, and then on top of that I have built it up not only with the Woodland Scenics ranges of phlox and scatters and foliages, but also an awful lot of trees. Now, the trees once again are seafoam, and they're using the G Model Miniatures leaf foliage applied with a little bit of spray glue to make those work. G Model Miniatures offer 3 different colour tones in their leaf foliage, and I've used all 3 of them to try and create the variety and give some definition to those trees. There are a few of the Woodland Scenics fine leaf foliage also included in that, just to sort of give a little bit of contrast too. And up at the very far end, if you can just sort of see it, right beside the bridge there is one of the Wooden Scenic's tree armatures. That's had some seafoam glued onto those armatures, and then the leaf foliage from G Model miniatures applied as well. Moving on up, just beyond the tree lines of the cutting is Blackstone cottages, and that was really sort of the catalyst to get this entire area done. By having completed that build, I was able to bed it into place, and in doing so then I basically worked back from there right the way down to the bridge within the cutting on the scenic aspects of it. But I did want a little bit of a cameo scene just to the left hand side of Blackstone cottages, in that sort of little bit of waste ground that the man who owns the house with the yellow door obviously just likes to abandon all his crap in his garden. As you can see there is an old vehicle with a tarpaulin laid over the top of it. That tarp has been made just using the old sort of toilet tissue and PVA glue soaked onto it and then left to dry, and then it's had an application of paint along with a little bit of dry brushing and weathering just to dirty it up a little bit. Alongside of that, we've got a few old oil barrels, bits of timber just discarded onto the ground, and also sort of just in the top left hand corner there is a little swing. It was just something a little bit different, I figured, and that swing has just been made using some florist wire bent to shape. The top bar has been soldered, or no, super glued actually into place there, and then a very fine piece of florist wire, it's almost thread like, was fed through a little bit of coffee stir to create the swing seat. And then if you look opposite Blackstone cottages, you can see that I've made a start on the next series of buildings for Carrick Wills. I'm sure many of you will be able to relate to this whenever I say here that sometimes you just get a bee in your bonnet about a particular logo that you have to have in your fleet, and the Western's been one of those for quite some time for me. I've always liked them, I've always enjoyed seeing them on other people's layouts, but I've never quite got round to buying one. And just January past there, I think I maybe just started trawling eBay looking for one. Obviously Dapple have the brand new all spanking one out there, and it's superb looking, but I picked this Helgen model up feeling that the money that I could save on the purchase of the logo itself could be put into a weathering project on it. And this has had the full weathering treatment by none other than Tim over at the Scrap Line. I mean, who else do you turn to for weathering projects other than Tim? The work that he's done for me in the past has been absolutely superb, and he'll continue to get my business. And in the case of the Western here, he just nailed it absolutely. Second to arrive in the layout was this Derby Lightweight. I'd caught wind at Graham over at Lakeside was selling off a few of his models, and I got in contact with him, and there was this and one other one, and both were very, very reasonably priced, but I've always fancied a Derby Lightweight, and this just seemed to suit the layout perfectly. It's another DMU that will eventually trundle up and down this branch line, and in addition to the fact that it's in such good nick, which I expected from Graham anyway, because he's such a perfectionist in how he looks after his stock, but it's also sound fitted, which was an additional selling point. You either love them or hate them, don't you? And I very much fall into the former category with the Pacer units. And much like the Western, I've been wanting to incorporate one of these into the fleet for quite some time. David over at Cottesmore was interested in selling his. He flashed a stupidly silly low price on it for me, and I just couldn't resist. Now, it's not a brilliant runner at the minute. The decoders and all that are working fine in it. It has been chipped, but it's still not a great runner in this layout, so I think it does lend itself to needing a half decent service, which I intend to do at some point, along with, you know, the 101 other things. But it's just nice to have there. Now, one thing with regards to the Pacer, it may well stay just as it is for its lifetime here at Galgormhall, but there is the outside possibility that at some point in the future that I will take this as a donor to make it into an NIR rail bus. Now, it will require quite a bit of modifying, but certainly the sides are perfectly acceptable to change it over to that rail bus. But I would need to buy a couple of kits to be able to get the front end, or the front end sorted for it. But look, that's it for a project many months and years down the line. So in the meantime, I will just sort of make the Pacer up ready to go as it is sitting here right now. So this brings me to the very final new piece of stock that's arrived at Galgormhall, and probably for me as a Northern Ireland modeller, this is the holy grail of locomotives, certainly in the diesel period. This is a Murphy Models Class 111, and there were 3 of these Class 111s produced for Northern Ireland Railways, and they basically used to run the enterprise service from Belfast to Dublin. They have since been taken over by the Dietrich units and have sort of been resigned to carrying spoil wagons, ballast wagons, that sort of thing on the network, but they're all still there. Well, at least 2 of them are still there anyway. I think the 3rd one's knocking about somewhere. These don't come cheap, and whenever this came up on eBay and I had a buy it now option on it, I had to think quick as to whether I wanted to go for it or not. And to be honest, it's maybe a little bit overpriced, I don't know, but in my view was I was prepared to spend the money on it, and I knew it was an awful lot of money. But whenever you're trying to search for something that's as rare as hen's teeth as these are, you got to sort of, you know, bend the rules a little bit. I wouldn't normally spend this sort of money on a logo, but it is what it is, and that's the bottom line. Up until now, the plan was that this was probably going to run the likes of spoils wagons or maybe some sort of freight train whenever say the likes of the Guinness kegs. I'm not even sure if it would have pulled the kegs, but since IRM and Accurascale announced recently the production of Mark IIB coaches, there are now going to be coach sets coming out in the NIR Enterprise livery. 2 different sets, one in the original sort of blue-grey livery, of which I produced the Lima versions in a previous video, and then also in the later sort of bumblebee livery, and that's the ones that I've gone for. I've picked up, well, I placed on order 6 of those coaches. I'd love more, I absolutely would. Whenever IRM announced the release of these liveries, I was buzzing that entire day, because to me this is the very first time that a Northern Ireland based modeller has been able to buy over the counter ready to roll product of coaching stock ever. To say I'm super excited about this would be an understatement, but I've now got a Class 111 in my collection. There we are. That is the update for Galgormhall. look, there really hasn't been an awful lot has happened over the last few months, but hopefully you've enjoyed the content that I've provided for you today. One more thing before I do go. Over the past year or so, I've been sort of collecting up odd photographs and that, and trying to convert them into sort of stylish pictures, with the view that I wanted to sort of create those old railway posters of sort of the Big Four era, essentially advertising Galgormhall as being the gateway to all these wonderful locations within Northern Ireland. So I have these 4 posters ready to go, and if you'd be interested in them, I'm happy enough to send you a copy of those pictures, which you can then print off. Resize probably will have to be done as well, and print them off so you can use them on your own layout on an advertising board beside your station or such like. If you are interested, just drop me a line either via email, which you'll find in the description below, or you can find me on Facebook as well, with the information in the description below too, and send me a private message through Facebook. Either way, if you are interested, get in touch and we'll sort something out. In the meantime, thank you very much for watching. Hopefully I will be back much sooner than before, but in the meantime, take care and I'll speak to you soon. Bye bye.